The air in the small California church buzzed with anticipation. It wasn't every day that a tech billionaire like Elon Musk stepped into a place like this, and the congregation knew it. Word had spread quickly through the town that he was coming to announce a donation, a generous sum meant to fund the church's community outreach programs. The pews were packed, filled with familiar faces and curious newcomers alike, all eager to catch a glimpse of the man who seemed to hold the future in his hands. Among the crowd sat a young girl named Lily, clutching her worn copy of the Holy Bible. At 10 years old, she was a regular at the church, often seen with her grandmother, who had raised her on stories of faith and miracles. Lily's wide eyes took in the scene as the host, a devoted member of the church's organizing committee named Margaret, stepped up to the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen," Margaret began, her voice warm but carrying the weight of the moment. "We are truly blessed today to have with us a man whose vision has changed the world. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Elon Musk." The applause was thunderous, rippling through the congregation as Elon Musk walked onto the stage. He was dressed in a sharp suit, his expression calm but focused, as if he were already calculating the next 10 steps of his day. He shook Margaret's hand, exchanged a few quiet words with her, and then turned to face the crowd. "Thank you for having me," Elon said, his voice steady as he adjusted the microphone. "I'm here today because I believe in the work this church is doing for the community. I'm honored to announce a donation of $5 million to support your outreach programs, so you can continue to make a difference in the lives of those who need it most." The crowd erupted into cheers, clapping and murmuring their gratitude. Margaret beamed, stepping forward to thank him again. "This generosity will touch so many lives," she said. "We can't thank you enough, Mr. Musk." Elon nodded, offering a small smile. "I'm happy to help," he replied simply, stepping back as if preparing to leave. The organizers gathered around him, exchanging a few more words of appreciation, their voices low but filled with gratitude. But then a small voice cut through the hum of the crowd, clear and unwavering. It was Lily, standing up from her pew, her Bible still clutched tightly in her hands. The church fell into a stunned silence, every head turning to look at the young girl with wide eyes and parted lips. "Mr. Musk," Lily called, her voice echoing through the stillness. "I have a question." Elon paused, turning to look at her. Margaret, caught off guard, glanced nervously at the other organizers. One of them, a stern-looking man named Robert, whispered to another member to intervene. "Go get her to sit down," he muttered, his tone sharp. But Elon raised a hand, gesturing for them to stop. "Let her speak," he said, his voice calm but firm. He stepped back toward the microphone, his eyes fixed on Lily. "Go ahead, young lady. What's your question?" Lily took a deep breath, her small frame trembling slightly but her voice steady. "I grew up believing that God is for the poor," she began, her words ringing out with a clarity that belied her age. "My grandma always told me that we pray to God to get everything we want in life, because we don't have much, and God listens to us because we need Him. But when I see people like you, Mr. Musk, rich people who have everything they desire, who can get whatever they wish for, I start to think maybe God is only for people like us, the poor ones. Because if you already have everything, why would you need to pray? Why would you need to believe in God as much as we do? We have reasons to feel connected to Him because we're always asking for something. But what do you ask for?" The silence that followed was deafening. The congregation sat frozen, their eyes darting between Lily and Elon. Murmurs began to ripple through the crowd, soft at first, then growing louder as people whispered to one another. "She's got a point," someone muttered. "I never thought of it like that," another voice added. Margaret shifted uncomfortably, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. Robert leaned over to her, his voice low. "We should have stopped her sooner," he said, his tone laced with frustration. But Margaret shook her head, her eyes fixed on Elon. "Let's see what he says," she whispered back. Elon stood at the podium, his hands clasped together, his expression unreadable for a moment. Then he leaned forward, his voice steady as he spoke into the microphone. "That's a very good question," he said, his tone thoughtful. "And I'm glad you asked it, because it's something I've thought about a lot myself." The murmurs in the crowd quieted as everyone leaned in, hanging on his every word. Lily stood still, her eyes wide as she waited for his response. "You're right that I've been fortunate in my life," Elon continued. "I've had opportunities and resources that many people don't have. But that doesn't mean I don't believe in something greater than myself. You see, faith isn't just about asking for things you don't have. It's about understanding your place in the universe, about finding meaning in the things you can't control. I may not pray for material things, but I do pray for wisdom, for clarity, for the strength to make decisions that can help others. I pray for the courage to keep going when things get hard, because even people like me, people who seem to have everything, still face challenges, still have fears, still need guidance." He paused, letting his words sink in. The congregation was silent now, every eye fixed on him. Lily's grip on her Bible tightened, her lips parted slightly as she listened. "When I was younger," Elon went on, "I didn't think much about faith. I was focused on science, on building things, on solving problems I could see and touch. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that there are some things science can't explain. There are moments when you feel something bigger than yourself, something that pushes you forward even when you don't know why. I've felt that when I look at the stars, when I think about humanity's future, when I see people coming together to help each other, like what this church is doing with the programs you're building. That to me is where God lives. Not in the things we ask for, but in the way we connect with each other, in the way we strive to make the world better." He looked directly at Lily now, his gaze steady. "So, yes, I believe in God," he said. "Maybe not in the same way you do, but in a way that feels true to me. And I think that's what matters. That we all find our own way to connect with something bigger. Whether we're rich or poor, whether we're asking for a lot or a little, we all have a reason to believe." The church was silent for a long moment, the weight of his words settling over the congregation like a warm blanket. Then, slowly, a few people began to clap. The applause grew, spreading through the crowd until it filled the room, a wave of appreciation for the honesty and depth of his response. Lily stood there, her eyes shining with emotion. She didn't clap, but her expression had changed. There was a new light in her eyes, a spark of understanding that hadn't been there before. Margaret stepped forward, her voice trembling slightly as she spoke into the microphone. "Thank you, Mr. Musk," she said. "Your words have given us all a lot to think about." Elon nodded, offering a small smile. "Thank you for letting me be here," he said, then stepped away from the podium. The organizers gathered around him again, thanking him profusely as they walked him toward the exit. The congregation began to chatter among themselves, their voices a low hum of excitement and reflection. But Lily wasn't done. As Elon reached the door, she slipped out of her pew and hurried after him, her Bible still in her hands. "Mr. Musk!" she called, her voice cutting through the noise. Elon turned, pausing just outside the church doors. He saw Lily approaching and waited, his expression softening as she came closer. "Yes?" he asked, his tone gentle. Lily stopped in front of him, her chest heaving slightly from her quick dash. She looked up at him, her eyes wide and earnest. "I just wanted to say thank you," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I've always thought people like you didn't need God, but what you said in there, it made me think differently. I think I understand now." Elon knelt down so he was at her eye level, his hands resting on his knees. "I'm glad I could help," he said softly. "You asked a really important question, and I'm honored that you trusted me to answer it." Lily's lips trembled and tears welled up in her eyes. She clutched her Bible tighter, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been praying for my grandma," she said. "She's sick, and I've been asking God to make her better." but sometimes I feel like he doesn't hear me because I'm just a kid and I don't have much to offer." Elon's expression softened further, a flicker of sadness passing through his eyes. "You know," he said, "I think God hears you more than you realize. And I'll tell you something else. I have a prayer for you too." Lily blinked, a tear rolling down her cheek. "You do?" she asked, her voice small. Elon nodded. "I pray that you never lose the courage to ask the big questions, like you did today," he said. "And I pray that your grandma gets better, because I can see how much you love her. Keep believing, okay? Not just in God, but in yourself. You've got a strong heart, and that's going to take you far." The tears spilled over now, streaming down Lily's cheeks as she looked at him. She didn't say anything. She couldn't find the words, but the gratitude in her eyes said everything. Elon stood up, giving her a gentle pat on the shoulder before turning to head toward his car. As he walked away, Lily stood there, watching him go, her Bible still clutched tightly in her hands. For the first time in a long time, she felt a warmth in her chest, a sense of hope that went beyond her prayers for her grandmother. She felt seen, heard, and understood, not just by God, but by someone she had thought was so far removed from her world. And as Elon's car pulled away, he glanced back at the church, a small smile tugging at the corners of his lips. He didn't know it, but his words that day would stay with Lily for the rest of her life, shaping the way she saw the world and the way she saw herself.